By the early 1770s, the Maratha Empire had staged a remarkable recovery. Following the catastrophic defeat at Panipat in 1761, a young Peshwa named Madhavrao took control, restoring the empire's military reach and administrative authority across the Indian subcontinent. That stability evaporated in 1772 when Madhavrao died of tuberculosis at just 27 years old. In a centralized monarchy, this sudden vacancy at the top created an immediate succession crisis. Waiting in the wings was Madhavrao's uncle, Raghunath Rao, commonly known as Raghoba. Tired of being bypassed for the throne, he saw the death as his final opportunity to claim the title of Peshwa. A single case of tuberculosis had stripped the empire of its most capable leader, exposing a deep political fracture that foreign powers were positioned to exploit. Madhavrao's brother, Narayan Rao, was crowned the next Peshwa. His perceived weakness as an administrator gave Raghoba the opening he needed to begin plotting a takeover. In 1773, Raghoba orchestrated a coup, arranging the assassination of his nephew, Narayan Rao, to seize the Peshwa title for himself. Inside the heavily fortified Shaniwar Wada, the seat of Maratha power, Raghoba bypassed open warfare in favor of a targeted domestic execution. The Maratha ministers and generals refused to recognize Raghoba's authority. By murdering his own nephew to take the throne, he had stripped himself of political legitimacy in the eyes of the Pune court. The situation intensified months later when Narayan Rao's widow gave birth to a son, Sawai Madhavrao. The court immediately moved to crown this infant as the legal Peshwa, effectively declaring Raghoba a usurper. To protect the child and govern the empire, 12 powerful ministers formed the Barbai Council. Leaders like the administrator Nana Fadnavis and the commander Mahaji Shinde acted as the central pillars shielding the infant node. The Maratha Empire was now ruled by a committee rather than a single sovereign. Realizing he could never defeat this united front alone, a desperate Raghuba sought outside military help. He fled to the western coast, arriving in Surat to petition the British East India Company's Bombay Council for military backing. The Bombay Council saw a chance to expand their coastal territory. Eager for profit and regional influence, they acted independently of their superiors in Bengal. In 1775, they signed the Treaty of Surat. For 2,500 British soldiers, Raghuba ceded Salsette, Bassein, and revenue rights from Surat and Bharuch. Supported by this force, Raghuba marched toward Pune to dissolve the Barbai Council and install himself as Peshwa. This document officially weaponized an internal Maratha family dispute into the First Anglo Maratha War. When news of the conflict reached the East India Company's headquarters in Bengal, Governor-General Warren Hastings condemned the Bombay Council's unauthorized war. Under the Regulating Act, Hastings and the Bengal Council held supreme authority over British operations in India. Bombay's independent treaty was a direct violation of this chain of command. Hastings formally nullified the Treaty of Surat and ordered the Bombay forces to cease their advance. He dispatched Colonel Upton to Pune to negotiate a direct peace with the Barbai Council that would supersede Bombay's rogue agreement. This resulted in the 1776 Treaty of Purandar. The company recognized infant Sawai Madhavrao as the Peshwa and agreed to drop their support for Raghoba in exchange for a 25,000 rupee monthly pension. However, the British refused to return the island of Salsette. The peace was fragile because the Bombay Council refused to accept Bengal's authority. They continued to harbor Raghoba and plot against the government in Pune, keeping the war alive. Seeing the British negotiate peace while simultaneously protecting his rival, Nana Fadnavis looked for a European counterweight to British influence. In 1777, the Maratha signed a pact with France to secure 2,500 European soldiers and specialized training for 10,000 Maratha troops. This antique map illustrates the strategic value of the western seaboard. In exchange for French military assistance, the Marathas granted the French East India Company a port on this coast. A formal French naval foothold on the western seaboard threatened British maritime control across the entire region. This treaty transformed a regional succession dispute into a proxy theater of the global Anglo-French rivalry, forcing a massive British military response. Spurred by the French threat, the Bombay Council marched toward Pune, intending to crush the Barbai Council and install Ragoba by force. Mahaji Shinde led the Maratha defense, luring the British column away from the plains and into the difficult passes of the Western Ghats. The Marathas employed scorched earth tactics, poisoning wells and destroying the British supply base at Kopali to starve the advancing column. Cut off from their supplies and unable to retreat, the British force was completely encircled at Tulligao. Facing total destruction, the British surrendered in 1779. The Treaty of Wadgaon forced the company to surrender Raguba and relinquish all territory acquired since 1773. The coastal strongholds the Bombay Council had prioritized were lost in a single tactical collapse. The British had expected their disciplined infantry to dominate. Instead, their military apparatus was dismantled by Maratha guerrilla tactics and coalition unity. Warren Hastings refused to honor the surrender at Wadgaon, viewing the treaty as an invalid result of Bombay's military incompetence. He determined that British prestige could only be recovered through a major intervention directed from Bengal. Hastings launched a three-pronged counterattack. Colonel Goddard took Ahmedabad and Bassein, Captain Popham captured Gwalior, and General Camac moved against Sipri. The critical moment occurred when General Camac defeated Mahaji Shinde at the Battle of Sipri. Hastings deployed these multi-front strikes to generate tactical leverage, applying pressure across the subcontinent to force the Maratha leadership back to the negotiating table. Hastings recognized that the Maratha Confederacy was too resilient to defeat as a unified force. He focused his diplomatic strategy on the coalition's strongest military figure, Mahaji Shinde, who was now vulnerable following his recent defeat. Hastings drove a diplomatic wedge between the Maratha leaders, separating Shinde from the Barbai Council and repositioning him as a neutral mediator. In a separate 1781 agreement, Hastings returned Shinde's captured lands on the sole condition that he mediate the peace between the company and the Peshwa. Hastings secured his advantage by permanently fracturing the unity of the Barbai Council, achieving through diplomacy what he could not win on the battlefield. This maneuvering culminated in the Treaty of Salbai in 1782, finally ending the hostilities. The final terms were a strategic compromise. The British kept Salsette and banned the French from Maratha territory. In return, the Marathas regained their lost lands, and Ragoba was permanently neutralized with a pension. Mahaji Shinde became the mutual guarantor of the treaty, personally responsible for enforcing the peace against whichever side broke the agreement. With the final seal pressed into the wax, this historic document effectively concluded a brutal and exhausting decade of relentless conflict. While the First Anglo Maratha War was a military draw, the Treaty of Salbai was a strategic success for the British. It bought them 20 years of peace on their western flank, allowing the company to focus its resources on destroying Mysore to the south.